You know, Perloff, I started thinking about this a little bit. And I started thinking about this upcoming NFL season and some things that I think could happen. And I have reasons why I think they could happen, okay? And as I started thinking about this one thing, started thinking about it a little bit more, I realize it's time to dust off Machiavellian Maggie.
Machiavellian Maggie.
Raider fans, you're not going to like this, but I woke up today and I saw Davante Adams and his Instagram story with his arm around the general manager, Dave Ziegler, with a caption, "The man." Okay, why is that interesting? Because all of, 2 days ago, an article came out in The Ringer where Davante Adams says that he is not on the same page as the coaching staff in the front office. And he wasn't when they got rid of Derek Carr, who was his best friend, right? And that he really wants to be in a place where he can win. He's also very concerned, and the article made this clear, about whether or not he's first-team All-Pro. And Davante Adams is very concerned, like a lot of professional athletes, about what their standing is in the game. He wants to be known as the best wide receiver in the game. It's important to him to be known about that. He does not want to do his work in obscurity. He doesn't want to do this work on a losing team. Okay. Year one, not awesome for the Raiders. I think you and I would both agree on that. They were not a playoff team.
Well, yes, not awesome for the Raiders.
Not awesome for the Raiders.
Pretty good year for Adams, but
Fine
you're saying
year for
different
Adams.
things. Okay.
First team All-Pro, but not a good year for the Raiders. Then they cut his best friend, essentially, who's now going to be the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. And Davante Adams has already admitted he's not on the same page with management. My prediction for this upcoming season is I think Davante Adams asked for a trade. And I'll tell you, I don't know if I can tell you exactly when, but I got a rough date for you. The Raiders open the season at Denver. The next week at Buffalo. I believe they're only one of 3 teams that start the season back-to-back road games. Believe that's true. Double check it. Third week of the season, Sunday night, high-profile game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then they are at the LA Rams, then Green Bay. If they've only won one game by the time we get to a Sunday night showdown, a Sunday afternoon showdown, with New England, I think Davante Adams asked for a trade. The reason why he came to the Raiders is no longer there. Yes, they paid him, but he wants to win. If they get off to a really bad start, Perloff, I could see him saying, I'm 30, I want to win, I'm about winning, and I need to get out of here.
Okay. I totally agree with all that. Question, will they grant the trade?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. The Raiders did, I think, a lot of good things this offseason. They're doing fine things. I don't have a ton of huge criticisms on the Raiders on their offseason. They brought in Jimmy Garoppolo. Fine. Means you're going to see some Brian Hoyer backup, which that's also not going to make Davante Adams happy. But anyway, if Garoppolo predictably gets hurt. What they did not do, though, is they didn't address quarterback. The quarterback of the future.
Okay.
Jimmy's for now. The quarterback of the future. I look at the 2024 draft class, and I'm looking at quarterbacks, and I'm seeing every college football player under the sun who's going to be coming out this year, starting with the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and Caleb Williams. There are guys, I know we always do wait till next year draft. Guys, this is really it. These are some good, established quarterbacks. This is not guys who had 5 and 6 starts under their belt. No Mitchell Trubisky's in this class. These are dudes who are really have more bona fides, I think, than many classes before them, right?
The class looks sick.
Thank you. So I think that the Raiders, if they could get another first-round pick or something to help them maneuver to get a quarterback next year, I do think they would grant Davante Adams the trade. So, yes, I think they would say yes.
They might even be bad enough on their own to get in with this scenario.
It's going to be tough, though. Arizona is they're really, it looks like they're really trying for next year. To get the number one pick.
A little devil's advocate. If Caleb Wilson is really this, Caleb Williams is really this number one guy then nobody's going to trade anything for him at number one.
It might not just have to be Caleb. I don't think this is a one-guy class. I mean, he'll be the top of it, of course.
Right.
But you still have, like,
I feel like
the entire Pac-12, essentially. You've got Drake May. Quentin Ewers might come out. Okay.
Right. But if you basically, I think you'll be bad enough. If you trade Davante Adams, you're throwing the red flag and being like, we're going to win 5 games. So you'll be in the mix for all those guys. Yeah. Unless it's a 1-2 with Drake May. And if it is 2, you might not be able to trade up. I think if this scenario plays out, you trade Davante Adams, it's all about tanking the rest of the year.
Well, so they might have too much talent to tank, but what you can do is you can acquire assets and you can try to use them to move up. The rumors were the Raiders were trying to get up to 1 last year, remember, to get Bryce Young, and they obviously couldn't do it because Carolina beat him to the punch.
But you just said if they have a 1-3 start, and trade Davante Adams, we can't be looking at more than 3 or 4 wins, can we?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Jimmy's hurt in this scenario. Who's your quarterback?
Brian Hoyer.
There's no way you're winning more than 4 games of Brian Hoyer with no Davante Adams.
You still have, some good guys on defense. I don't know how many
I'm not
games
disagreeing with your overall point.
It might be top 10. Like, that's what I'm thinking. And they want another asset so that they could try to package it to
absolutely. But they might get it anyway. One thing, can you get a first-round pick for him?
Depends how much of the salary you want to take on. If you eat some of that salary, I think you could get a first-round pick for him. He's still a first-team All-Pro. This is a guy in his prime. If you're going to have teams who are also in the AFC who are going to be looking for differentiators, I mean, this is going to be a tough conference to make the playoffs in, and you have a lot of teams who are very desperate.
First-round pick for half a season to Davante Adams. It's a big
but it would
price.
just be the half a season because he's under contract for the next 3 years.
What did they give up to get him? The number 23 pick or something around 20. So it would say to me, like, that's a pretty good, if this all happens and they can get a first round pick for him, which I think you're right, they might be able to do. I think that it just works out fine. You know what? You tried, it didn't work. I think that'd be a fine solution for the Raiders, unless it does work, in which case, hey, it's also good. I think you could argue Jimmy G is better than Derek Carr.
That's fine, but Derek Carr at least was durable. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he had some key injuries at the worst times for the Raiders, but I think you could have success with Jimmy G. I'm saying, like, I kind of think you're opening yourself up, that not taking that into account as much as possible. That, hey, this could all work offensively.
Sure. I mean, listen, maybe they win the game in Denver. They have won in Denver a lot. It's not like that's a house of horrors for them or anything like that. It's not like Kansas City for the Raiders where they just can't seem to win. They can go to Buffalo and they could win. You get Buffalo in September, nice and balmy, before the snow falls maybe. And maybe you have a really big showing on that Monday night against Green Bay, and maybe it's awesome and you look incredible. Sure, then he's not going to ask for a trade. But if it goes down the way that I think it could, then I think he's asking for a trade. I do think the Raiders are granting it.
And one other thing, too. What about, I think people want to live in Las Vegas. What are the trade options? Say Buffalo wants him.
Well, then it's really going to put you to the test. How much do you want to win and how much do you want to live in Las Vegas?
Yeah. Well, he left Green Bay for Las Vegas. Do you think he wants to go back to the cold? He's a Fresno, California kid.
Listen, if you can survive in Green Bay, or not survive, if you can thrive in Green Bay, then you'd be fine in Buffalo. Yeah. I'm not even saying Buffalo would necessarily be the place, by the way.
Poor dude waited a decade to get out of the cold. You're sending him back to Buffalo?
Listen, the Raiders did this to themselves. They traded his friend. Well, they tried. They couldn't even get anything. They cut his friend. I wonder in that scenario if he would have say, where are you sending me to? I don't think the Raiders probably feel a lot of loyalty in that sense. So I think they would probably go with the best, whoever's the best offer. Yeah. Okay. I think that all very possible. Although I do think you're just discounting a little too much the chance that it goes good. No, it could go great. Yeah. Listen, you have Jimmy reunited with Josh McDaniels. I don't think Josh McDaniels is a good coach. So I kind of agree with you on that. He has a lot to show. And now he's got his guy in there, right? Jimmy at least knows the offense well. I mean, obviously McDaniels and Carr were not on the same page on a lot of things. So we'll see. Maybe it will work. Stu, you're a big Raider fan. Did I just ruin your Thursday? No, this is kind of what I'm expecting. Really? Yeah, to go poorly. I'm not. If Davante Adams gets traded, it wouldn't be the most shocking thing as a Raiders fan. It kind of feels par for the course. Well, the other part about this and what brings it all back to today is that he gave that interview to The Ringer, and he said all these things. And then you see him post the Instagram photo with him and the general manager saying, the man. He's trying to walk it back. So clearly that article didn't go over well in the Raiders front office. And how could it have when you have your best player come out and say, we're not on the same page?
Yeah.
You know, he's out there doing damage control today. And that's already, it's May. Like, that's not a good sign, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, he did walk it back, so it could be a good sign. But you're saying it's already, there's fractures that you see.
The waters they're not muddy, but they're muddying.
Hey, Stu, why are you guys cutting Hunter Renfrow? What's up with that, too?
Did you say when or
You
why?
know, there's a report today that they were going to release Hunter Renfrow in June.
That's been like a rumor for a while. I don't know.
He's the best player on that team.
Didn't they
He's
pay him
amazing.
last year?
They paid him last year. I think they gave him $10 million a year for like 3 or 4 years. So
he's great.
He's a good receiver. I don't know why you would cut him. It makes no sense.
What is going on there?
And they traded Waller. Although
that I see.
Everyone was kind of done with Waller. Right?
I see that because Davante Adams is just a better Darren Waller. So you can't have both. Those guys, what's the point of having both of them? We'll see. I love Waller. Waller's a great guy. Everyone loves his story.
Yeah.
But if I'm a Raiders quarterback and I'm dropping back to pass, who are you going to throw to? Davante Adams every single play.
Well, but that can be a little predictable.
Doesn't matter. He was beating double teams regularly by the end of the year.
He's so good. He's so good. And, you know, the thing about the article where he was critical of the offense and stuff like that, and he said, you know, I proved I don't need Aaron Rodgers. It might have stung a little bit, but spot the lie. I mean, he's right.
The thing about that article, too, it did imply that he was unhappy about the roster choices. It wasn't the offense, like the style of offense.
No, I don't think it was that. It was the decision-making.
Right, because he ended up with a lot of yards last year, so he can't complain about the X's and O's, I don't think. I think he's pissed about Derek Carr.
I think so, too.
And you know what? It's a weird hill to die on, because you should have known. We knew when Derek Carr signed that one-year contract that the Raiders were trying him out this year. So he left Green Bay for the Raiders. He had to know, but it sounds like maybe he didn't.
And they all, I don't want to say they.
Yeah.
Athletes will always tell you, it's a business. It's a business. We know it's a business. That when things happen, then it's like they get in their feelings about it. It's like, well, I'm human. It's like, well, which one is it? Is it a business or are you human? And I think this is the one where where a lot of athletes say it's a business, I understand it. Yet at the same time, they're human and their feelings get involved.
Yeah, it's like my guy Joel Embiid all of a sudden is sad that Doc Rivers got fired.
Yeah, like how disingenuous is that? Do you think Doc Rivers is getting fired if Embiid's like absolutely not? He's the only person I want to play for. Of course, Doc's getting a 5-year extension if he says that.
The only thing is, Joel has no. James Harden runs that team. Apparently,
and that's a problem too.
Apparently, Joel has nothing to do with this. It's all about what makes James Harden happy. But regardless, it's the same thing. Like Joel is saying, "Oh, I miss Doc," and you're right. That's such a good way of putting it. It's a business, except that it's all so darn personal for these guys.
Yeah, and listen, I think that maybe Adams kind of revealed a little bit in this article that he's someone who really cares what other people think of him because he's so good.
Well, by the way, that was not the coolest comment by him, that he was that he's obsessed with getting All-Pro.
Because he wanted to show it wasn't about Rodgers.
Yeah, that is...
I know. He's telling you who he is.
There is one thing that every player should be judged on in the NFL is do wins.
Well,
And to come out and say All-Pro was so important to me, it's super lame. It's kind of like Joel Embiid again, being so proud of being an MVP. That was only a wide receiver would say that being All-Pro was so important to me, because you know that's an anti-team comment.
It feels a little anti-team. I think a quarterback would get ripped if they said something like that.
Right.
100%.
A wide receiver, you expect that.
Well, it's not even expect. I kind of get it in this sense for him, which is he and Rodgers had this great partnership. You know, They were both awesome. Rodgers is winning MVPs with Davante Adams, and I think Adams wanted to show he's not just a product of Aaron Rodgers. So that I get. I don't know.
You get that, but you don't say that out loud. That's the quiet part.
Well, now we know. Yes, EJ.
But isn't there a part of me that there is a part of me that feels like this year is more of a prove-it year than even last year was for Davante Adams, because you go from Aaron Rodgers then to your best friend who's throwing you the ball a million times. Of course you're going to make All-Pro. You didn't win any games with them throwing the ball to you so many times. They weren't throwing the ball to Renfrow as much. They weren't throwing the ball to Waller as much. I know those guys got hurt. But, like, to me, like, this season now, okay, no good buddy at quarterback. Are you still going to put those numbers, and will your team win? I don't know. To me, like, I think this year is actually more of a prove it than last year was.
Well, and it's a good point where I think if they start off the season 1-4, he's like, get me out of here.
Yeah. By the way, EJ, get back to Maggie's original point. If they're not throwing him the ball, then that is a guarantee what you said will come true. If he does not get the targets, forget it.
Yeah, but they'd be stupid not to give him the targets, you know?
But you could argue run Josh Jacobs. He's amazing. You could say that's another option, which they did do as well.
Yeah, he led the league in yards from scrimmage last year. So,
yeah, I mean, maybe they were targeting him too much last year. Maybe they were like, oh, let's spread it out a little bit more. It'll help him. And then 3 weeks in. Jeremy Fowler reports Davante Adams wants a trade.